Hello ladies and gents, and welcome back to another video, as this one is quite the special one, as today I am going to be running down all 14 horror flicks I watched in October. I just figured it'd be a fun video to do. I mean, why not? And I watched a lot of horror movies, probably the most amount of horror movies I've seen in October in all of the years I have been alive, and I watched a lot of good ones. This was a very, very, very difficult list to make because I enjoyed practically all of these movies on this list to a certain extent. I had a lot of fun with all the horror movies I watched this month, and again, like I said, very difficult list to make, lots of tough choices. Tomorrow, I might have a different opinion on this list, but as far as today, and at this hour, and at this minute, and at this second, this is my list. This is my top 14 horror movies that I watched in October, so let's get down to it. So coming in at number 14, we have The Creature from the Black Lagoon, which I have reviewed, and I'll put a link down in the description below to that very review, and I'll keep this one very short since, again, I already reviewed it. But, like I kind of said in that review, I just wasn't a big fan of Creature from the Black Lagoon. It didn't have the same effect on me as I'm sure it did when it released. Again, it's a very iconic film. I didn't have a bad time with it. You know, I had some fun with the film, and I actually have it on Blu-ray somewhere. It's actually somewhere right there in that stack. But again, I had some fun with it. The underwater sequences are shot really well. There's a couple good scenes in there, but it just didn't have the same effect on me as I'm sure it did when it released. So now let's move on to the number 13 spot, and coming in at number 13 is Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead. Now, I had fun with this one. I definitely had fun with this one. The makeup is fantastic in this movie. It is great. Do the characters make dumb decisions in this movie? Yes. Is Ash basically Upham in this film before there even was an Upham? Yes, but I had fun with this movie. It's tons of fun. If you have not seen The Evil Dead and you're into horror movies, and even older horror movies, then you probably will be interested in this movie. It is on Netflix, so you can check it out there. And coming in at number 12 is Midsommar, whatever you like to call it, which I also reviewed. I'll put a link down in the description below to that very review. And again, like I said in that review, I was very much in the middle of the road with this film, but more on the side of I liked it. The performances are fantastic. Florence Pugh was snubbed for best actress in a leading role. Well, actually, I can't really say that because I didn't see all the actresses in the leading role category for this year, so I can't really say that quite yet. But the performances are brilliant, and it's a beautiful looking film, and it's very interesting how the beauty of Midsommar, how it looks, kind of contrasts the events, the disturbing events and terror that happens in the movie. And like I've said before, there was a point in this movie where I just felt like I was watching a cult do disturbing things to people. That's kind of why I'm more in the middle of the road with the film, but there's a lot to like about this movie, especially the beginning part. The beginning part of this movie had my jaw to the floor. I mean, it is jaw-dropping and shocking. And yeah, so you could also look at my review, like I said, which is linked down in the description below. And now let's move on to the next category, or the next spot, I should say. And coming in at number 11 is Unfriended. Now, you may be going crazy here, but look, is Midsommar the better made film? Yes, absolutely. But I had a lot of fun with Unfriended, and I saw it for the first time a while ago, and I saw it again, actually really late at night on Netflix, and I was like, hey, this is actually a pretty fun horror movie, and it is. It's a really fun horror movie. It's creepy, especially because we're in this technology age right now. It's a creepy film, and it's not one that's really talked about, I guess, anymore. Kind of started this whole thing of kind of films that take place on a computer. Obviously, one of the most recent ones that was talked about was Searching, which is a fantastic film. But yeah, Unfriended comes in at number 11. And let's move on to the next spot. And coming in at number 10 is Paranormal Activity 2. Now, I went into this movie not just basically blind. I didn't know what to expect from this one, but I did enjoy the first film, and after watching it, I enjoyed it. I had fun with Paranormal Activity 2. what can I say? I personally thought it was really cool how they connected the second one to the first one, because I didn't know I thought it was gonna be a total different story, but it isn't. It's a prequel sequel to the first one, and I think about 80% of the budget went to orange juice, because there's a lot of orange juice in this movie. And yeah, that's what I have to say about Paranormal Activity 2. I had fun with it. So now let's move on to the next spot, and coming in at number 9 is Nightmare on Elm Street 1. Now, this is actually the only Nightmare on Elm Street movie I've seen, and listen, I have lots of respect for older horror films that are still creepy and scary and intense to this day. Some examples are like Alien, which is my favorite horror movie of all time, and Rosemary's Baby, which is extremely creepy. Movies like that are ones that is like, that tip my cap to. But I remember watching Nightmare on Elm Street for the first time, actually I think around last Halloween, and I was pretty scared. It was a pretty scary movie. I mean, this is a guy that you can't run away from. I mean, he is in your dreams, which is what makes Freddy scary. And even though he has a sense of humor, but the second time around watching it, is it as scary as the first time? No, not really, but I still had fun with it. And again, I respect a movie like Nightmare on Elm Street, which could still be scary to this day. But the ending of Nightmare on Elm Street feels a lot like the ending of the UK version of The Descent, where it kind of tricks you a little bit. And yeah, I mean, I had lots of fun watching this movie second time around, and not quite as scary as the first time watching it, because, you know, I kind of sort of already expect what's happening, even though I don't remember everything that happened, except for the ending, which is quite an ending. But yeah, with that being said, let's move on to the next spot, and coming in at number 8 is The Strangers. Now, this is a movie that's certainly not really talked about that much anymore. I think it came out around 2007, and I think it is a little bit underrated. It's a very creepy movie, especially the guy with the bag over his face. That dude is absolutely terrifying, and this film has one of my favorite shots in the horror genre. Absolutely just terrifying, because, I mean, that's something that could possibly happen to you, so it's just terrifying. But there's a part in this movie that I didn't really notice the first couple times that I watched it, and they show a good portion of, because there's 3 stranger killers in the movie basically, and they show a good portion of 2 of the strangers' faces, the 2 girl killers in the movie, and they show a good portion of their faces, and I wasn't a big fan of that, and I didn't notice that until I watched it this past month, and I didn't realize how much of their face that they showed, and I wasn't a big fan of that, because I think that takes away a lot of what kind of makes them scary in the first place, is not really knowing who they are or what they look like. I mean, what's scarier, a random dude that you don't know in a Michael Myers mask trying to kill you, or a Joe from Home Depot trying to kill you? I mean, they're both scary, but which image is scarier, you know? So I didn't really notice that until I watched it this past month, so I was like, yeah, that was kind of a mistake, but I still had a good time watching it. And with that said, let's move on to the next spot, and coming in at number 7 is Paranormal Activity 3. Now, to me, this is the best Paranormal Activity movie. I mean, I've only seen the first 3, but to me, this is the best one out of the first 3 movies. I think it's the scariest out of them all. I think it has the best acting out of the first 3 movies, and the addition of the fan basically panning left to right and right to left, that was a genius addition to this movie. It made it a whole lot scarier, because, I mean, if you're panning to the right, you're like, oh, I don't want to see what's on the right, because you're scared something's gonna be there. You're like, oh, no. And this movie also has a very creepy shot that has to do with a bed sheet. That shot was man, yeah, that was scary. Now, I gotta be honest with you, though. Now, the first Paranormal Activity movie costed, I believe, around $20,000, and the second one costed $2 million, and the third one costed $5 million, and I think there is no reason for these movies to cost $5 million. I mean, I don't know where they're going. I mean, maybe they're going to good use, but I don't really think there's a reason for these movies to be $5 million, or, you know, up there in the digits. I just don't think they should cost that amount of money. But yeah, just saying. But with that said, let's move on to the next spot, and coming in at number 6 is The Others. Now, I wouldn't say this is mainly a horror movie. It definitely has some horror elements, and it definitely tricks you a little bit in the movie, but I'd say this is mainly a mystery movie, and boy, is this a darn fantastic, brilliant mystery movie. I mean, I did not predict what was going to happen in this film at all. I mean, it just was like mind-blowing. The twist in this movie is mind-blowing. The performances are great. You have Nicole Kidman in there. But yeah, that twist. Oh my goodness. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Definitely one of the better mystery movies I've seen. Yeah, but that ending, whoa, did not see that coming. But with that said, let's move on to the next spot. And coming in at number 5 is quite an iconic movie, and that is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, this is a movie where for about an hour and 20 minutes of that hour and a half runtime, where I just felt uneasy for what was about to happen, or not happen in the movie. I mean, this is the definition of a nail biter in a very intense movie. And like I said, I have a lot of respect for older horror movies that can still be really intense and scary to this very day, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre is still a very intense film. I mean, it is a nail biter all the way to the end. I mean, you're just like, you don't want to mess with this dude. And plus, he also runs, unlike, Michael Myers and Jason and all those people. I don't know, does Jason run? I don't think he runs. I haven't seen enough Friday the 13th movies, but this guy runs, and he has a chainsaw, so you better run too. So with that said, let's move on to the next spot. And coming in at number 4 is James Wan's Insidious. Now, I watched this movie around 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock p.m. and I was absolutely terrified. I was terrified. And whoever came up with that creepy song in this movie, the window, burn the window, that song, is an absolute genius, because it was scary. It was scary. This is a scary movie. And I was alone. It was dark, and I watched this at night, and I was scared. This is a scary movie, guys. This is a scary movie, and that's what I have to say. It was a scary movie. So now let's move on to the next spot. And coming in at number 3 is probably the most iconic horror film of all time, and that is The Exorcist. And I made the mistake with this movie watching the theatrical version instead of the director's cut, which has a lot of the very iconic Exorcist moments that a lot of us may or may not know. I like the part where she walks down the stairs backwards, like that scene, which apparently they left out of the theatrical version because I think it was too scary or something like that, because they think the US audience is a bunch of chickens. But to each his own. But so I kind of made that little mistake there. So the next time I watch the movie, I'll make sure I watch the director's cut. But so I'm going to talk about the theatrical version, not the director's cut. But anyways, with that being said, I'd have to say that the first hour and a half of this movie, I thought it was good, not great. I didn't think it was like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite horror movie of all time. But once you get to that exorcism sequence, when they get the cavalry and they go in there, whoa, this movie gets, my, it's pretty great stuff. That whole sequence is fantastic, and if you want to know how to write a great character arc, I mean, just look at the character arc of the priest, played wonderfully by Jason Miller, again, who gives a wonderful performance, and Linda Blair, who also gives a very iconic and fantastic performance, and probably the best child performance, and maybe not just the horror genre, but maybe of all time in any genre. I mean, she is great, and what I've heard is that this movie kind of messed her up a little bit. I think that's what I've heard. But with that said, let's move on to the next spot, and coming in at number 2 is The Descent. Whoa. Man. I heard a lot about this movie, and I saw it for the first time this past month, and you want to talk about claustrophobia? You want to talk about intensity? You want to talk about scary? Well, The Descent has all of that. And look, I also made the mistake of watching the US version instead of the UK version of this movie, and I didn't know there was different versions on this movie. Same thing for The Exorcist, and that was definitely a great mistake. The difference between the US and the UK version is the ending. Now, when I watched the US version of the movie, I thought the ending, I thought it was cool. I was like, whoa, jump scare, but I thought it was cool. But then I saw the UK ending, because apparently there's a UK version, and I was like, yeah, that ending is way better, makes more sense. And the reason they didn't have that ending for the US version is because they thought it would be too dark for US audiences because, you know, they think we're a bunch of chickens. But, I mean, I definitely made a mistake there. Definitely watched the UK version instead of the US version. And that shot towards the end of the movie, you know what I'm talking about if you've seen The Descent. That shot towards the end of the movie is just, oh, great. But yeah, The Descent. If you haven't seen it and you love horror, get on it and watch it. Don't wait like I did. So now let's move on to the next spot. And coming in at number 1. Coming in at number 1 is 2018's Ari Aster's Hereditary. I mean, this movie has it all. This movie has it all. Scary, performances, everything. Story, everything. And it's funny because the first time I watched this movie, I found the ending to this film to actually be really unsatisfying. And I wasn't a big fan of the ending, but I've really warmed up to it. The more times I see it, I'm like, yeah, it actually makes more sense, that ending. And this is just a fantastic horror film. One of the best horror films, and it still scares me. And Toni Collette won the Oscar, in my eyes, for Best Actress in a Leading Role. She wasn't even nominated. But yeah, that is my top 14 horror movies of October in 2020. Definitely leave a comment down in the comment section below of what you think about my ranking. I'm sure you're going to disagree about some of these rankings, probably more about Midsommar or The Evil Dead, I'm guessing, maybe even Creature from the Black Lagoon. But leave a list. What'd you watch? Rank them down there. I'd like to know. I'll check it out. Yeah. Do that. And don't forget to like and to subscribe because that is very important. And you can also follow me at The Kid Critic on Instagram and at Kid Critic on Letterboxd. And as always in every single video, look out for the next video or review. And peace. And happy spooky month. Even though it is November. So I guess it's turkey month now. Anyways, peace.